Hello everyone, welcome to Uncommon Roots Homestead. We find ourselves yet again with a dreary weekend. So we will be inside today. I'm actually going to be showing you how to preserve garlic. So this week we are focusing primarily on getting onions and garlic into our beds for the fall and over the winter so we can harvest next year. So I thought while we're doing that, I've got a lot of leftover garlic from last year, so I need to do something with it. So I'm gonna show you how we typically preserve minced garlic. So it's pretty simple. I'm gonna walk you through all the steps, and I think you'll find that it's a lot easier than you might have thought. So come along and we'll show you how all that works. So to start off, I just wanna show you what you will need in order to make minced garlic. It's pretty simple once again. So I've got my cutting board here with a sharp, broad knife. I've got my garlic. I've got a bowl for discarding the outer shell of the garlic. I have a mason jar. I'm using a quart today. It's gonna vary depending on how much garlic you actually have. I think I've got enough to fill that quart jar. So you'll need a clean quart or some sort of mason jar, pints, half pints, however much garlic you actually wanna mince will dictate what kind of jar you use. I've got olive oil, and I've also got a food processor. I'm going to show you today how to process minced garlic using the food processor, or I will also briefly show you how to mince garlic without the food processor if you don't have one. And to give you an idea of what the final product should look like, I have some minced garlic here. This is from a previous batch we did. So if you take a look here, so this garlic was preserved in oil. We minced it up, preserved it in oil, and that's been in our fridge for probably about 5-6 months now, and it's still perfectly fine to eat. So that's kind of what we're going for by the end of this. So anyone who thought that this might be a complex process, to be honest with you, it's just garlic and oil. That's all it is. So I'm gonna take you through the steps of it, but first thing we gotta do is mince the garlic. So simple as that. We're gonna mince the garlic, we're gonna put oil on it, and boom, there you go. So a head of garlic looks similar to this. You'll see that it has cloves all throughout. So what we're gonna do is we're actually gonna have to separate all the cloves from the head of garlic. So this is where your broad knife comes into play. So when we take a look at a head of garlic, looks similar to this. We've got the actual head of garlic is filled with cloves of garlic. So we need to separate the cloves from this entire head. So here's where your broad knife comes into play. You need a broad knife, similar to this, that you can actually smash the garlic so the cloves come out easily. So I'm gonna take this, put my garlic down here, grab my knife, put it on top of the garlic like that. Make sure you take a flat palm and hit it on top of the knife that's sitting on top of the garlic. Make sure you keep your fingers out of there and make sure you stay away from this part of the blade. So you just take that broad part of your hand and smash it. And now we have separate pieces of garlic. And my little helper came in. Okay, so now you have these individual cloves, and these cloves have a outer kind of shell on them, I guess. Like an onion has that outer wrapper, almost feels like paper. So we need to get that off. The easiest way to do that, once again, is to use your knife. So you're gonna place the garlic flatly on your cutting board. Do the same thing as you did before. Put that knife on top and give it a good slam. And then you can start peeling off that outer layer of garlic. Makes it a lot easier than trying to do it without, crushing it a little bit. So you're just gonna peel that off. I'm discarding mine over here. You can compost those if you want, however you wanna do it. So we've got that wrapper off, and there's a clean clove of garlic. Now when you're actually mincing the garlic, there's a few ways you could do it. The fastest way, of course, is if you have a food processor. You just take all those cloves that have been peeled and toss them in the food processor, pulse it a few times till it's a fine, mince or a coarse mince, however you like it. So that's the fastest way, but you could also just chop it up. If you got your knife, I'll show you how to chop that up. Once again, that's probably the slowest way to do it, but you can do it. You can also get one of those manual garlic presses where you place the garlic into the press and then squeeze it, and it minces it for you. So I'm gonna actually do all of ours in the food processor, but if you don't have a food processor, which not everyone does, I'll show you how to mince it with a knife too. So I'm gonna take this, we're gonna cut it, of course, in a few strips here. I'm gonna turn the garlic and then just rock that knife back and forth until you've got it minced. Give it a few extra if you don't feel like it's small enough for you, but there you go. Now it's all minced. And for the rest of your garlic, you'll just repeat the process of what you just did, the separating from the head, the removal of the outer layer, and then finally the mincing. So you'll just repeat that with all your garlic. Okay, so the good news, if you just finished doing the peeling of the garlic and you have a food processor, then you have accomplished the most time-consuming portion of this video. So, congratulations. If you don't have a food processor, you're in for the long haul. Unfortunately, you still gotta mince your garlic. So as I mentioned, I am using a food processor. So I've got all my garlic in there. What I'm gonna do is just close the lid, and then I'm gonna pulse this a few times. I'm gonna pulse it until I've got the garlic at a stage where I like the, fineness or coarseness of it. So for us, we kind of like it not super fine, but also not, large pieces either. So I'm trying to just mince it kind of like you'd find it at the store, in the jar, minced garlic that you buy in jars at the store. So I think I'm about there. I'll take it out and we'll take a look here. I think that's pretty good. Okay, so now I've got my garlic out, my minced garlic. I've got my olive oil here. I've got my jar. If you notice, I switched from a quart jar to a pint jar. Might have been a little over ambitious with the quart jar, so I've got my pint jar now. The minced garlic, as I mentioned, and I've got a silicone spoon to scoop out the minced garlic and put it in the jar. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm going to take out the minced garlic from here, scoop it into my jar, and then layer it with olive oil. So it's as simple as that, and that's how you're gonna preserve it. So you layer it kind of like parfait, right? So you're putting garlic, oil, and then garlic, oil, garlic, oil, garlic, oil. Keep going. So the reason that you do that is that oil will actually keep this from oxidizing and spoiling. So we're gonna take all this, make sure that there's a layer of oil on top of our minced garlic when we're done, so that way it doesn't mold and doesn't spoil sooner than you'd like. And then we're gonna store this in the fridge. So you always have to store this in the fridge as well. But that's really it. It's a super simple recipe and a super simple way to preserve the garlic that you worked so hard for, that you planted probably, well, for us, over a year ago now, and still are trying to figure out ways to preserve it so you can use it for your family. But this is a way that we like to do it. We love minced garlic. We use it in a lot of different things. So being able to preserve this easily, is definitely a win for us. So I'm gonna take my minced garlic. I'm just gonna scoop it down into the jar, like so. Shake it up a little bit. Make sure I get a layer of garlic on the bottom. So I've got a layer of garlic on the bottom, as you can see. And now I'm just gonna take the olive oil. If you have one of these pouring spouts, it's really helpful. I'm just gonna pour olive oil over the top. So now it's submerged in oil. And then I'm gonna just keep layering garlic and oil on top of each other. Voila! And last thing I want to mention is that you want to make sure that this oil is completely covering the garlic. Once again, this is going to keep it from molding on top, so you make sure that that oil gets above the line of minced garlic that you have. So lastly, I'm going to cover this up, and we will throw this in the fridge. So the garlic will last about 18 to 24 months in the fridge. Now, if you don't want to preserve it in oil, maybe you don't like the taste of olive oil, something like that, you can do all the mincing, removing of the peel, mincing the garlic, and you can actually freeze that as well, just in a Ziploc bag or some sort of container that's freezer safe. So if you prefer not to have the olive oil, then you can store that in the freezer as well. Similar shelf life for that. And that is it. You did it. It's a super easy recipe. I've said super way too many times on this video, so for that, I apologize. I do want to thank you all for joining us today. You always have a place on our farm, in our homestead, and in our kitchen apparently. But we want to thank you for joining us. Please feel free to follow us on Instagram at Uncommon Roots Homestead. Also, feel free to like and subscribe, share with your friends if you feel so compelled. If you don't like this video, tell us to stop or tell us what you would like to see. That's probably more helpful. If you like this video, tell us you want to see more. If you want to see different ways to preserve garlic, we might be trying some different things out in the future. So we may do that as well. But we are also planting our garlic this week, so you may see another video with us preparing those beds. So apparently it's garlic week here, so hooray. Thank you again. Please feel free to like and subscribe, follow us on Instagram, and we will wish you the best rest of your day. Thanks.